Hi guys, I'm Gail,
I'm Russell,
and welcome to another episode of our podcast.
and we like this one. This one's pillow talk. We always do these ones. We call them pillow talks. We're sitting on our bed, and we often have our best conversations when we're sitting on our bed because we feel like nice and cozy and relaxed. So,
Chill vibes.
so in your relationship, if you want to talk to each other, it's often a good idea to do it just sitting on the bed, and then you can just relax and chill. And not when you're going to bed, but sometime during the day, just comfortable. And we hang here, and I just said to Gail, hey, how about we make one of our pillow talk podcasts?
Because sometimes when you're talking in bed as well, you're not actually looking at each other, which can be less confrontational, right? Like you can actually, you're still connected, but you're looking forward, or you might be laying down, you might be looking at each other, you might even be in the dark. I mean, we had a couple conversations last night. We were in the dark, we were getting ready to go to bed, but there was a conversation that we were just wanting to have. And so like both are, I don't know if Russell's eyes were closed. My eyes were definitely closed, right? But we're both laying in the dark, and it creates a different level of connectivity. And it's not confronting, and it's not the need to like defend and feel like you need to be against each other is not there, because you can actually just flow and like be together.
I mean, we talk a lot about state change and how state influences how we communicate. And so I think the bed itself is a kind of relaxing state anyway, naturally promotes that. So it just seems to flow easier, right? Anyway, what I wanted to talk about is communication today. Communication is one of the major cornerstones of the relationship entity, and we have to get that right. And it's, if you think about it, relationship happens with either non-verbal or verbal communication.
And most people are actually having nonverbal communication all the time in their relationship, and they don't even realize how shitty the messages are that they're sending back and forth to each other with the nonverbal, with the triggeration in the body, with the glance, with the like, if looks could kill, like you've murdered your husband with that look, right? Those things are happening all the time, and that communication speaks louder than the words that may actually be coming out of your mouths.
Yeah. And then we have this, we talk about this relationship, and what we're always promoting is this true self relationship, like a heart-to-heart relationship.
Versus like the head-to-head, whereas like you're butting heads and like disconnected. It's like that heart-to-heart. Who are you really talking to? You know, it's not the person that is reacting or defending or feels like they're against you. It's like, who is that person really, and where are they at a core, and then connecting that heart-to-heart level.
Yeah, so up here in the head, we've got this conflict because we've got these opinions, we've got these stories, we've got these rules, and they're all in our head. And what we're doing is we're trying to get across our opinion and our ego. Then at a head-to-head level, we've got our ego, which thinks that defending an opinion is the way to survival. So the ego believes that the way it survives is by being right about its opinions, and that if you take away those opinions, then it kills the identity. And that's what all wars are fought about, is this identity that they believe they're protecting.
Well, and I think oftentimes as well, I know like for myself, I was just working through on a coaching session for myself individually on something that Russell and I had talked about, but it's like, what is the belief running in the background, and what's underneath the actual conversation that may be happening between you and your partner? So I'll just use myself as an example, because why not, right? The belief in the background is that somebody is always to blame. That was the belief for me running in the background, and ultimately the person always to blame is me. Even if on the forefront the blame might be spat out of my mouth outwardly and go like, but it's your fault, Russell, right? Like, so I might say that, but internal, and the internal mechanism for me was this core belief underneath that somebody has to be at blame for whatever's happened or what was said, and ultimately the blame rests with me. And shifting that belief for myself has opened up a whole new realm of possibilities of who I can be without that belief running in the background. Now, that might be one of like 1,000 that every single person might have, and I'm just using that as an example. So you may or may not resonate with that or not, but just know that we all have these like things that are running as undercurrents underneath all of the communication that's happening, if you like, at a conscious level. So just to bring awareness to what's going on underneath and how our identity then reacts and portrays what happens next. So to give a live example, Russell had asked me about a number that I had gotten for him last year, and I can't find it, right? I have no idea where it is. I know that I got it, and I know he was super excited when I got it because it was something he needed from the UK, like for him. Anyways, but I have no idea where I put it. I found all the other things, but with the belief running in the background that somebody has to be to blame. Initially, it's like, well, it's your fucking fault. It's your fucking number. You should have recorded it yourself. That's the outward blame, which sounds like he's the one at fault. But ultimately, because I've got that belief running in the background, the person I'm actually blaming and condemning internally is me. And then I'm going to work on trying to fix it instead of going, this is how quickly it could have rectified, going like, oh, yep, I actually don't know where it is. I can't find it. Yep, I've lost it. Okay, now what?
And it's not untrue that I should have written it down and it is my number and I should have taken responsibility for it. It's not that we're saying that's untrue. It's just that that's not what's going to give her any freedom in that instance.
Because then then what happens is I don't get to see that underneath everything is that somebody is at fault and the person at fault is me. And that's been my belief, even if outwardly I'm saying it's somebody else's fault, right? And if I don't deal with that belief running undercurrent, then I have no access to create and no freedom either. I'm like bound always to like be defending or condemning and internally beating myself, if you like, for getting something wrong, making a mistake, losing something, fill in the blank, right? So then I'm constantly on high alert for not doing something wrong, which ultimately, like I'm a human being, unfortunately. That's just the nature of the beast. We all do things wrong.
And even I'd like to just even take the opportunity to reframe it as well. For me, it's not blame when you do it yourself. It's blame when you put it out there on someone else. When you look at it yourself, you're going, okay, what can I take responsibility for that will then give me freedom or power in this moment? And that's what's happening in a relationship all the time. We're looking for what the ego wants to do. Is the ego wants to blame the other person for the faults and the mistakes they're making and for it being all about them. Then what it wants to do is it wants to control the other person. It wants to control the other person to match my opinions, if you like, so that she becomes how I think she needs to be to stop me having problems in my life. So what happens then is if I blame her, then I try to control her with opinions. Is completely different. That's like in the head, and the ego is trying to protect itself by saying, I must be right, you must be wrong. And what we want to do is what we're teaching people in relationship is to get out of their head and let go of their ego and just identify it and drop into their heart and start creating from a true self perspective. And once you do that, it stops being about opinions and you can just say things without an attachment to being right about them. And that makes all the difference in communication. That makes all the difference to how we work together. And it takes it away from it being me against her and to this teamwork identity that we have of being together and letting go of neither ego is right, neither opinion is right. Opinions are just opinions. Everybody, have you noticed how everybody has them? And have you noticed how nobody actually chose them? So think about all the opinions you have about everything right now, and you tell me if there's a time where you can remember sitting down with a notebook and going, okay, these are all the opinions that are available. I'm going to select these ones to be mine. That never happened because you didn't choose them. They got embedded in you subconsciously as you grew up, and then your ego took them on as its own to protect itself with and protect its identity. But its identity is not who you are. And if we try to express and push our opinions on the other person as if I can make you believe that I'll be safe, which is the undercurrent that's happening there, then the other person's ego and identity is going to go, well, hold on a minute. If his opinion is right, that mine must be wrong. If mine's wrong, I've got to defend it. And that's where we end up in a relationship, is we end up expressing opinions thinking that's the way to communicate. And it isn't the way to communicate. The way to communicate is to share what's going on with you without any need for an outcome from the other person, and to actually go responsible for your own internal feelings, which is exactly what Gail's saying in this instance, right? Is you went with your internal feeling of where you can be responsible for what you did in that instance.
Yeah.
It
Which
doesn't.
goes back to the simple model that we talk about, right? Above and below the line. Below the line is blame, excuse, deny. And then above the line is ownership, accountability, and responsibility.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter in what interaction, but if you're operating from above the line, it's okay, how can I be accountable? How can I be responsible? How can I take ownership for either how I'm feeling or what's going on in the interaction?
And we feel in a relationship, we feel like the other person is causing us our problems. And because we feel like that, we feel like we have this need and desire to change them. Because if they change, then they won't be causing us our problems. But that's not how it is, in fact. So nothing she actually does causes me a problem, only the way I receive it or take it. And if I can get that, I can stop needing to change her to make her different in order to have a happy relationship.
Which goes back to the old saying, be the change that you want to experience. So if you want to experience more love in your relationship, be more loving or be more lovable. If you want to experience more joy, be more joyous, be more happy, be more fun, be more lighthearted, right? Don't expect that to happen over there if you're not being it over here.
Yeah. And then so sometimes what will happen in relationship coaching, when we coach couples coaching, as Gail calls it nowadays. So when we do couples coaching, what sometimes will happen is one person will be...
rolls off the tongue nicer, couples coaching.
Rolls off of your tongue nicer. If I can remember it, it'll roll off mine too. Now, what was I saying? So what happens is when we do couples coaching, sometimes one person is more
on
board than another person. So they're more keen on making the sessions happen. So that when that can happen is one person can easily book a session because they're happy to move anything for the session, but the other person doesn't want to move their life for the session because perhaps they know it's important, but perhaps they don't see the importance as clearly. So what can happen is in those instances, we can be trying to set a date with somebody to set a session, and then the person that's more involved can become, well, if you cared about me, if you wanted to do this, if you loved me, we would set it. You have to set it. You need to make a commitment. You need to do this. They become very kind of dogmatic, forceful, opinionated about it because they feel that the session is important and that if the other person doesn't come on board, it won't happen. And what we want to get to is, in this instance, for example, is taking the conflict out of it. And so instead of giving an opinion about the importance of the session and why they should be there and why they should do it, we want to get to a place where it's more of a sharing environment, especially from a woman's point of view.
So from a woman's point of view, if you're the one that's wanting the session booked and your partner and your male partner is the resistant party, then like from a feminine point of view, you want to share yourself and be vulnerable. Like, why is it important? And if he can't get out of his own way and book the session, you want to go, okay, here's the time and the date that I'm booking the session. And I would love you to be there. It's important for me, for our relationship, for our family, for what we're creating. And I want to do this together. I don't want to do this on my own. I want this to be one of the things we're doing together. And the crazy thing is if you look at it in perspective, and we actually did the calculation, it works out to, what was it?
Well, an hour a month is 0.14% of the time. 0.14%.
Which is like, what was it?
Seven, you want the fraction?
7 5,000.
7 5,000ths of a month.
7 5,000.
It's 1 hour to spend on your relationship working on.
Yeah, so 7 5,000. So if you have 5,000, it's 7 of those. It's like the time. It's not even 1%. It's not even 1%.
You would need at least 5 to get to 1%.
You need 5 hours, right?
You need 5. Yeah, it would need to be 5 hours,
which is not what it is a month. So it's like, it's such a tiny component of your time commitment, but people place so much emphasis on making that happen, or wow, I can't possibly find the time. And it's just like, well, the reality is how committed are you to your relationship is the first question you want to ask. And what are you willing to do in order to have that show up? Because as a minimum, you want to be spending 15 minutes a day. This is like a bare minimum.
Yeah, minimum.
Bare minimum. 15 minutes with your partner connecting each day. Well, that far supersedes the time that you'd be spending like doing couples coaching, for example. And if you're just doing the bare minimum, you can only expect the bare minimum out of your relationship, right? Don't expect to be fulfilled and loving each other and totally connected and vibing on the same level and all that juicy good stuff if all you're doing is the bare minimum. Expect the bare minimum as the output. So the question you always want to be asking is, how committed are you to your relationship and communication and making time? And time doesn't have to be hours and hours and hours on end, but it's like actual connected time, because people spend a lot of time together doing their relationship. They don't spend
But they
a lot
don't
of
communicate effectively.
and they don't spend time being in their relationship, and then they don't spend time actually communicating. Here's what I actually need, like, hey babe, could you put your phone down so we can actually connect right now? I would like to talk to you. Or I don't even know what I want to talk to you about. I just want to sit without the phones being in the way, for example. Because I know that's a big one for a lot of people these days, because it's so easy to just pick up your phone, and we do it by default these days because we are much more technology connected, instead of going, okay, let me put the phone down and be belly to belly connected. That's a totally different way of connecting. But equally, notice that even if you are both on your phones, for example, you don't have to be disconnected from your partner. You can totally be connected in with your partner and both taking a minute to scroll or do whatever it is you're doing on your phone. So there's multiple ways of looking at it, and that all comes down to communication, understanding, like, what are you doing right now? Like, what is that all about? Or can we actually take some time to connect here? Can we actually talk? Can we communicate? And not just the death stares, if you like, because they're not spending time with you, for example.
Often I'll hear a complaint from the women that is their men, when they try to share or try to talk, and men check out, and there's reasons for that. We can go into it in another podcast. But just to see for now is that's often a complaint. But what we're talking about here is percentage of time. Let's just say you did a relationship check-in 15 minutes every day. So that just means at some point during the day, you've got to spend 15 minutes with each other and pretty much divide it up with 15 minutes of talking. So 7 minutes each, just to listen, speak, hear what's going on, understand, take your time. And that one thing would totally transform your relationship. If she says to me, well, today the dishwasher is always a big thing in our lives, so I like to use that as an example. But if she said to me, well, you did say something about the kitchen the other day, I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't the dishwasher, but it was something to do with cleaning up, right? So even if you said,
because I cook, traditionally I cook a lot in the kitchen, and Russell pays no attention to if there's a mess in the kitchen at all, because he doesn't cook. So like, for him, going into the kitchen to make a cup of tea in a mess makes no difference. Whereas for me to have to cook a meal in a mess and chaos, that makes it that's a whole other brain mentality for me. So whereas making a cup of tea is a no-brainer for him. He doesn't even see the mess.
So if we're having a 15-minute relationship check-in and she says, you don't clean up the kitchen,
or you don't notice it needs
you
to
don't
be done.
you don't notice it needs to be done, you don't do the dishwasher. In that check-in, we're not looking for a communication that goes something like, yeah, but you don't understand, I've been busy all day, I've been working, I was doing this and this, and I don't have time for that because I only just had time to make a cup of tea. Other than that, I was working the whole time.
It would go something like this. It would go like it's really hard for me to cook in the kitchen because it's always a mess, and then I have to clean up. I have to do this other step before I can actually prepare and cook a meal.
So if we're in a relationship check-in, for me, it's then to go, not to feel attacked or feel like her opinion is getting the better of me. It's to actually emphasize is the wrong word. Have empathy.
Sympathize.
Empathy, yeah, but have empathy. Understand where she's coming from. Understand what it's like from her point of view. And then from there, communicate from that space. Like, no way, babe, I got it. I can see how I really just let you down in that area, how I don't participate,
or even just, no way, what's that like for you? Because it's also like, I'm not saying that he's the only other person responsible for doing it, but he's the person that I'm gonna like unload, if you like, the frustration of it on, right? So he's my partner. I'm not gonna unload it on somebody else.
But this is how the ego feels about it. The ego feels that she's trying to get something from me, trying to get something extra. And because she's trying to get something extra, it feels like it needs to defend itself because it doesn't feel like it has time for that. So then it wants to go into all the reasons why I can't look after the kitchen or tidy the kitchen or whatever that might be, right? And we want to, especially if we're going to do a 15-minute relationship checkup. And the reason I say that is because generally speaking, you may struggle to implement this without practice. And the practice needs boundaries. It needs to be capped one side and the other so you know what's going on.
Like each person gets 7.5 minutes and put a timer on.
Yeah.
Like, okay, your 7 minutes is done.
So
right?
Gail and I do this a lot during the day naturally, and we don't need to set a boundary where we do a relationship check-in to have that conversation. We can have it and I can hear her, hear what she's saying, get what she's saying, and not need to defend with my ego.
And then even sometimes it's like, okay, I want to say something here, but like I know you're checking in, so like, but I can't say the thing. Well, of course, then he's gonna go, well, now I want to know what the thing is, right? Because like naturally, that's the natural flow of it. So
that happened the other night, didn't it?
did.
We were having one of the things that happens in our relationship I've complained about in my experience. See, this is owning the way you communicate is so important, because what we want to do is we want to blame the other person. So let me do it in a blame way first so that we can see the difference. Whenever I complain about something in the relationship and say you're doing something, Gail, then whenever I do that, you basically just take what I do and then you all of a sudden make it about you, turn it around and put it back over here so that it feels like it's your problem that you're upset with me about. And it completely makes me feel like you're not listening or understanding me. That would be if I was blaming her for it. But if I said it in a more non-productive, enrolling, non-verbal, non-aggressive communication term, it would go something like, I feel when I say something to you that then it gets turned around and I feel it gets used against me. And when I feel like that makes me feel very upset and like I'm hurt, and it makes me feel like you don't listen to me and don't understand me. And so if I say it like that, then she can hear it more because it doesn't sound as confrontational to her. And she's not going to do the other thing she talked about, which is self-blaming and self-criticism. And then what happened the other day is we were actually having one of these discussions where I brought something up. I can't remember what it was now, but I brought something up I wasn't very, do you know, just as by the way, so while you're listening to this, I don't understand the difference between brought and bought.
Oh my God, it's hilarious. It's a British thing. Or it's a your family thing, because you guys all do it. I laugh every time. They all use brought and bought in the wrong context every time.
I kind of do now. I didn't know other people do it, but I've
in your family.
In my family,
your
do
mom
they?
And your dad.
I always thought bought and brought were the same words, and there was just
funny.
a little difference in pronunciation.
No, not at all.
I didn't know they meant two different things. So I would go to the shop and brought a broom, and I would go in a relationship and brought up the thing that happened the other day. And so I can work it out now because someone's explained.
Brought is bring, and bought without the R is like I went and purchased something.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, so
I know, but you still use it in funny context.
I get it wrong, which I was doing it just then. I was confused about, and she picked me up on it on the stair. I was standing on the stairs. She said something, so it just reminded me of it. Right? I'm like, how can you get to this age? You know, like I won't go into how old I'm. Nearly 40 years old. You know. Okay, no, that's not right, is it? No. Okay, let's get back on track. So anyway, I don't know the difference between those two things. So let me see if I can get it right now, because now we've highlighted it. So I brought this up the other day in the relationship. We were talking about something and I brought up an issue that was wrong, something I wasn't happy with. And Gail was listening to me. And while she was listening to me, she wanted to bring up something that was similar, wasn't it? What you were going to bring up.
I don't know if it was similar, but anyways, it made sense in the moment.
And so what would normally happen is she would bring that up. And when she brings it up, my ego defense, my identity would then get upset about it. And it would say, you're not listening to me. You've brought up your own issue when I've brought up my issue first, and now we can't talk about it. because now it's all about what you think and all about what you want. But instead of doing that, because we've had some coaching around this and we've been working on it, she noticed the pattern going on inside her or in her thinking, and she said, oh, I've just had that instance come up where I think I've got to say something, but it sounds like it's going to be almost contradicting what you're saying, so I better not say it. And because she said it like that, I was like, oh, you have to say it now. I want to hear what you've got to say. I want to hear what that's about. And so she was able to say it
Well,
without.
I didn't actually. We continued having a conversation about that, actually, and then when you asked me what it was, I couldn't remember.
Oh, did we?
Yeah,
Okay.
'cause
I thought you
so far
said it.
past the point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
But anyway,
the point is
that creates freedom and space to
Yeah.
like to be able to say something, right, or not.
Yeah, it doesn't create conflict.
Like if you like, the need in me to say it in days gone by subsided, and the need for Russell to say, to defend that this isn't about you, this is about me, if you like, subsided as well. And then in that instance, I didn't need to say it anyways, because that desire to like jump in, if you like, was no longer relevant or had no place, and would have come up again at some later time if it needed to.
And this is what we often get caught up in ego-driven, opinionated type communication. And there's the story is the I think it's the monkey in the jungle, right, with the peanuts. And there's a jar stuck to the on
bananas.
the there's bananas. Okay, do you know the story or not?
Yeah, so the concept is there's like, imagine there's a trap, like there's like a cage, and there's a bunch of bananas inside.
And just before she goes on with this, I'm sure my opinion about it is going to be different, and I'm not going to agree with this. So I can already hear that going on here in the background. I don't think she's going to get it right, okay? But let's just see what happens, okay? Go ahead.
So imagine there's a cage and there's a bunch of bananas in it, and the monkey comes along and the monkey wants the bananas, right? So what does the monkey do? The monkey puts its hand inside of the cage and holds on to the bananas, right? Well, the monkey's then trapped because it can't get the banana out of the cage, but it can't actually move either. Meanwhile, around in the jungle, there's more than just these bananas, but it wants these particular ones inside the cage, but the monkey is now trapped in the cage and doesn't get to have the bananas because it's trying to pull them out of the cage and its hand is stuck, right? All the monkey has to do is let go of the bananas, and it would be free to actually go and eat other bananas or go do anything other than be trapped in this cage. But because it's hanging on so tightly to that banana, it's stuck.
And because it holds on so tightly, what it does is it creates a scotoma, which is an ego-driven blind spot. It's a blind spot in the mind where the mind can only see what it's focused on. It's similar to that, but it's a scotoma. And it's an ego-driven blind spot. So essentially, the monkey can only see at that point the bananas it has its hand on. When what Gail's saying is,
it's like everything else blurs in the background. It literally has its focal point on the banana that's got its hand on.
And this, what we're discussing now in a relationship, is subtle but critical. And that's why I want to emphasize that, because it all goes on in this blind spot that the ego creates that we won't let go of because we're determined to have those bananas. And when we get in that position, we just end up fighting for
fixed.
Yeah, we become
fixed in one position, and we can't actually see anything else, or we're hanging on so tightly to our viewpoint or what we think matters or needs to get heard in that moment.
We want to move in a relationship, right? There's these little things there's all this list of things, right? Rigidity needs to go, flexibility needs to come. So the more rigid you are in the relationship about anything or any point or any opinion, the harder the relationship's going to be. Even about how you behave yourself, how rigid you are about why that's justified is going to cause a problem. The more flexible you can be
flexible and free flowing, right?
Yeah, flexible, free flowing. The more like that you can be, the more opportunities will open up for closer connectedness.
The more ebbs and flows, the more you actually flow together, right? It's not like rigid is like whereas flexibility is like flowing and moving really like nicely.
And anywhere you normally feel resistance with anything, it's where an opportunity of growth is meeting the point your ego needs to defend. So that resistance is actually, I call that your compass to growth. Whenever you feel resistance, that's your compass to growth. Whenever you start being right about something, that's your compass to growth, your soul's compass to growth. So just here, and this is a perfect example of this, right? When I describe that banana monkey story, I talk about the monkey putting its hand in a jar and grabbing a jar of peanuts. When Gail talks about it, she always talks about it with the bananas in the cage. Up until this very moment, just a few seconds ago, I had never heard Gail's story about it as clearly as I just heard it then.
Why?
Because my opinion, my desire to be right, that you get it wrong and I am right and my description is better, my ego-driven scotoma does not allow me to hear what she's saying. Now, in that moment, I suppose because I'm talking to you guys, whatever the reason is, I was able to be more open to it. And I heard her explanation more clearly. And I saw the bananas in the jungle as a much wider opportunity and possibility. And I saw why the monkey needs to let go of the bananas in the cage. And I see it now as a better explanation of what I was trying, the point I'm trying to get across with my hand in the jar peanut scenario than the one I use. So much so I won't use my one anymore.
But I taught you.
Thanks, baby. But honestly, if you'd have asked me this 10 minutes ago, I would have sworn that my description of it is better.
Well, and you
and gets the point across better.
Fought to defend and fought for your story being the one to get heard, right?
Yeah, and I would have said to you, that's not right. You need to get this point. And I do this anyway, but that's not right. You need to get this point across. It misses this, but it doesn't. It's an excellent metaphor for what we're trying to explain here. And you see, I could never have seen that. And so it doesn't matter that I teach this. I wouldn't have seen it myself because my ego is at work and my ego drives my opinions, that drives my identity, that protects itself. And what we want to do is we want to get away from that whole ego-driven communication in a relationship. It's going to happen. And sometimes you want an opinion-typed relationship so we can nut out different opinions, but we don't want them to get in the middle of our relationship and we don't want them to conflict with each other. They don't actually conflict with each other ever. They're on automatic anyway. Like I said earlier, they're not your opinions. You didn't create them. If your parents would have had different opinions and would have shared different things with you when you were younger, and you would have had different experiences. Sorry, babe, I'm putting you to sleep.
No, did you know that actually yawning is a lack of oxygen to the brain? So you should always allow yourself to yawn because it actually expands and allows oxygen to fill your brain. Yeah. It's not always a tired thing.
No, I get it. No, I understand.
That was a little side note for everyone.
Cool. Now I've got to remember what I was saying again. Oh, God. I can never remember. It goes like that out of my mind. A little thing happens and off it goes.
You were talking about opinions and parents' opinions.
Yeah, so if your parents would have had different opinions, if your upbringing would have been different, if your perception on life would have been different, if your wounds and your solutions would have been different, your opinions would all be different. They're not yours. And in fact, I'd invite you to see this now. Take any opinion that you have and take any opinion that your partner has, just like I just did then with the monkey story. I took my opinion about my bananas and I dropped it about the monkey and the nuts, and I dropped it and I picked up Gail's opinion about the monkey and the bananas and I adopted it. At any given moment in time, you can cast away your opinion and you can accept a new opinion and take it on. And you can do that with any opinion you have about anything. Problem you're going to have with that is your ego is going to tell you that these opinions are what are keeping you safe. These opinions are what are making you money. These opinions are what are giving you love. These opinions are what's making you happy. And they are not. It is not your opinions. In fact, your opinions are driving you away from that. And then when you get stuck on them and you share them in your relationship as if you're right, anytime you share your opinion as if it's right, your partner's ego will defend it with their coping strategy and their own opinion. They will come back with you and they will say why your opinion's not right and why they can't do it. Versus if you let go of your opinion and you actually just share what's going on, your relationship and your life will totally change. You will see that life can flow better and that you have less resistance. Like I have no resistance to, I mean, it's not always that I have no resistance, right? We definitely are not perfect, right? We will get opinionated, and we are both very opinionated, and we will share our opinions. Sometimes they will conflict. We just have these great tools for letting them go, working through it, and being able to transcend opinions and share what's going on. So we're looking for somebody said to me the other day, they said, my partner attacks my family. And I said, what does that look like when they attack your family?
Physically?
No, verbally.
Oh, verbally. I'm like, whoa.
It verbally attacks my family. And I said, well, what does that look like when your partner verbally attacks your family? Well, the other day they said to me when we were arguing, you're just like your mother. You sound just like your mother. And and the person I was talking to said, I had to protect my family and protect my mother. And I said, hang on a second. Why did you have to do that? Why didn't you just say, oh, that's lovely. Thank you very much for saying that. I really appreciate it. You're right. I am just like my mother. I really loved my mother.
Because it triggered that, like, oh my gosh, I did the thing that I didn't want to do that sounded like my mother. That's really what that's really what you're defending is, oh my God, that's the part of my mother I didn't want to become and I've just been it and they've pointed it out. Now shit, let me block and defend and actually like, no, that couldn't possibly I couldn't possibly have shown up as the version of her I didn't want to be. Because if it was the great version of her, I'd be like, oh, thanks so much for that. I love it. But when it's the shitty version of them, you're like, wow, that's the part of her I didn't want to actually ever take on and I've just taken it on.
And see the oxymoron that's in that, right? The oxymoron is that the person's saying you're attacking my mother, you're attacking my family. You want to defend your mother. Well, the reason you want to defend your mother is because you love her. So if you embrace that and say, when the person says you're like your mother, you just embrace that. Go, oh, that's lovely. Thanks so much. I appreciate you saying that. It doesn't matter what they think or believe. You just don't have to get involved in the opinionated argument that would bring up. And we're looking always for this communication in a relationship, this non-confrontational, non-aggressive type of communication. Doesn't mean we're doormats. Doesn't mean we
No.
Yeah, we definitely, that's another subject down the line. Doesn't mean that we want to just let that partner walk all over us.
On either side, right? It's like you still get to say what you say, but you take the venom out of it, and you also can see like who your partner really is. See them for who they are.
And if I said to Gail the other day, we were talking about this blame thing. If I turn around to her and said to her, I mean, she said this thing about this number, then she said you should have written it down. If I'd have turned around to her and said to her, I shouldn't have written it down. You did it. It was your responsibility. You should have written it down. What that would have done is that would have been an attack to her ego. That would have been just my opinion. And from there, I would not have got the result I wanted, whatever the result might be. The only thing that's going to happen when we express our opinions, and this is the irony of it, it's not like you're getting what you want anyway. By expressing your opinions, all you're getting is shut down, withdrawn, pissed offness, and argumentation. I don't know what that word is, but someone can correct me in some comments somewhere. But what you're getting is you get an argument back. So it's not that I'm saying, look, drop your opinions and you'll get what you want necessarily. You will, but you're not getting what you want anyway. So why keep fighting for them? You can be you without expressing and having the other person believe your opinions. Your opinions are just your opinions, and your opinion and $5 will get you a cup of coffee. It has no value other than that. It doesn't change reality. It doesn't make reality look a certain way. You can argue forever about the color of a car. I could argue it's blue. She could argue it's red. If the car's green, the car's still going to be green, no matter how much we argue about it. So we're looking to get this communication where it's less opinionated and more sharing from the heart, sharing from what's going on for you. I feel, I love, I would like, it makes me, I prefer letting go of expectations. The other thing I was going to check on, talk about.
But even I think sometimes, like, because it'll feel like if you feel like you're complaining, for example, you can say this may land as a complaint.
Yeah, you can
Like
preface it.
you preface it because, like, well, your partner can say, "Well, stop complaining at me." Well, this is all I've got, and you want to be communicating no matter what. But then say, like, I know for you this might land as a complaint, but hey, this is all I've got right now, and this is how I'm going to share it. So you share it anyway because it's better to share it and preface it than it is to withhold. And we've talked about that in previous podcasts, to withhold communication. It's better just to have that be in the space and trust that the two of you are big enough, bad enough to work through it and come together.
Cool.
Cool.
Does that pretty much sum that up for today?
It does. All right.
Okay. Awesome.
Get connecting,
Excellent.
get communicating, get loving on each other. See you next time, guys.
All right. See you guys. Thanks.